So sci-fi fantasy, I love it because it's so open, right? It's you can deal with anything with it. You can create, analogs for different things that are going on in the world, and you can take issues that are going on, and you can take them to their extreme, and then explore them in a fictional and in a fantasy or a sci-fi setting. And I found that I was able to take certain aspects of my protagonist's personality and make them take physical form in this fantasy world, which is something I really wouldn't have been able to do if this was something, set in the real world. So I had a lot of fun with it. Hi, my name is Bridgette Dutta Portman. If you're interested in learning more about my new young adult fantasy novel, The Twin Stars, please watch the rest of this video. The idea for this book came from my own experiences with obsessive-compulsive disorder, and also just my long-standing interest in sci-fi and fantasy. When I was in my late teens, I tried to write a fantasy novel, and it got really long. It was like 800 pages, all these characters. It was complex. It was really bad because I didn't really know how to write yet. And I ended up giving that one up. But some of those ideas stayed with me, and I was able to bring back some of those ideas, even some of those character types, and put them into this novel. So it is a novel about a teenage girl with obsessive compulsive disorder who goes into a fantasy world. So in the beginning of the story, my protagonist, whose name is Olive, is on a plane. And I decided to start it on a plane because I was trying to think of what's a really stressful event. And, people with anxiety, I know I have anxiety when I fly. So she's on a plane. She's going overseas to her grandmother's funeral. And she's writing in her notebook. So the premise is she has been writing a fantasy story for the last couple of years in her notebook as a way of working through some of her anxieties. And during the plane ride, there's a bout of turbulence, and she starts also having a conflict with her brother. And so she runs into the lavatory of the plane, shuts herself in there, and she has her notebook. She starts to write, and she goes through a portal into her own story. So she ends up in this fantasy world, which is on a distant planet. And she meets characters who are her own invented characters. Some of them are based on people in her life. So there's like a little bit of a Wizard of Oz vibe to it, where she's meeting kind of analogs of people in her life, but in her story. And then she has to figure out how to interact as herself in this story. She ends up meeting her own protagonist. And I don't want to give a lot away, but things kind of go wrong there. And it's a story about her finding her power and finding her confidence. I want the readers to get out of the book that it's okay to be to struggle with anxiety, to struggle with mental health issues. Olive has OCD, but there are many kinds of mental health issues that young people struggle with. And when I was a teenager, I didn't really understand my OCD very well, and I didn't really see it represented in books or movies or anything like that. And I wish I would have had a book with a character that was going through something that I was. And so I hope that that young people with anxiety disorders will identify with Olive and will maybe feel empowered because of this book. And for people who read it who don't have anxiety disorders, I hope that it shows them what that can be like, and maybe helps inform them a little bit. And then I also hope that readers just enjoy the adventure part of the story. So it's published by a company called TITAN1STUDIOS. They are a Canadian company that they don't do just publishing. They also they've published graphic novels. They've developed properties for film and for television and things like that too. And they've been very, very nice to work with. This is part of a series. So this first book called The Twin Stars is the first in the series. And I am hoping to make a trilogy. I'm starting work on the second book now, and then there will be most likely one more. So it'll be a trilogy. I started with the idea, and I knew who my main character was going to be, and I usually start with character when I create stories. So I created her and her backstory, and then I started thinking about what other characters could be part of the novel that would create conflict for her. So I came up with the antagonist or antagonists, and then some of the supporting characters, her friends, and things like that. Then I started kind of doing world building and thinking about what I wanted this fantasy world to look like. And that was a lot of fun. And then I came up with a loose outline. And that ended up changing a little bit during the course of writing it. But I always like to start with at least a loose outline. I learned the hard way that if I don't, I end up getting lost. Going back to that 800-page novel that I mentioned in my teens, I didn't really have an outline for that one. And by the time I realized I'd written myself into a corner, it was really too late. So once I did that, I had a first draft. I sent it out to some beta readers who gave me their feedback on it. I rewrote a couple times, sent it to an editor, got more feedback, and then actually, I keep tweaking it. I was tweaking it even up until yesterday when I had to submit the final files for it to be published on Tuesday, the 6th. So yeah, I guess I'm done with it now. People should buy my book because it's something new. It's something a little bit different. Olive is a different kind of protagonist. There aren't a lot of books out there about people with OCD. And also, it's a fun book. It's a space fantasy, and it has interesting creatures that I've come up with, and characters getting into difficult situations. And I think it's just a lot of fun. So if you're interested in the Twin Stars, you can find it on Amazon. It's available both as an ebook and as a print book. And you can also look at my website. It's bridgetteduttaportman.com for links to the book, and you can check out reviews and things like that. So again, I'm Bridgette Dutta Portman. If you enjoyed this conversation about my new novel, The Twin Stars, go to Amazon, or you can go to my website, bridgetteduttaportman.com, for a link to the book. And I hope you enjoy it.